I wanted to do, let's get a really cool reverb. When I started this project, I really wasn't planning to end up in like the strangest recording situation that I ever have. Just like deep in a military bunker, trying to prove a point about the tangibility of real reverb. And I definitely did not intend to be in a space that is just as equally beautiful and mystifying as it is haunting and absolutely terrifying. But first we need to rewind and understand a bit more context. I know this is a bit of a different video, but there is a point to it. Just like how a street photographer could take a picture at a busy intersection and transform that moment into a still image that speaks 10,000 words. As musicians and audio engineers, we can do that too. Just like how that photographer can immortalize light, we can immortalize sound. Where would Led Zeppelin be without that stairwell in When the Levee Breaks?
We had been recording in this room here. Bonzo had ordered a new drum kit. His tech, his road manager, had set it up in the hall. And when Bonzo came out, he started playing it in this thing, and it was this huge expanse.
Really quick, in celebration of 150,000 subscribers, me and Lauten are giving away a matched pair of LA 120s. As you'll soon see, these are the hero microphones of this entire video concept. All I ask is that you subscribe to the channel, like this video, and then give your email at the top of the description so I can contact you if you won. And now back to the video. And I also just kind of want to show you how awesome and beautiful it can be to record the world around you and get out of that timeline, get out of the plug-in chains. We get really caught up in all these endless offerings of the digital world. And no doubt these digital recreations of like reverbs and preamps and distortions, they're really powerful and really wonderful tools. But sometimes having all these limitless options can really stunt creativity by having an overabundance of choice. Actually recording the environment around you, not only does that get you outside of your like bedroom bubble, not only does it make you think more critically about the sound source that you're recording.
Go. I can listen to that forever. Now look what that's.
But it also really requires you to narrow in your focus and make a choice. And sometimes making that definitive choice and then moving on is more important than the actual recording itself. So does anyone watch abandoned building YouTube? It's like people that wander around dead malls and like abandoned water parks and like old aircraft hangars. If you haven't, you should. Because man, does this style of video make you feel a certain kind of way. It's weird. There's just something to seeing spaces that you feel familiar with, spaces that remind you of your childhood, and like watching them decay. Not to mention, they sound pretty insane. Now, New York has no shortage of crazy abandoned spaces, but this one stood out to me. It's called Fort Tilden. It was a military base right on the shoreline of Queens, right next to Rockaway Beach. Originally constructed in 1917 as a naval defense outpost, around World War II, they put these massive concrete batteries around the weapon systems. Soon enough, these main buildings turned into more and more structures, some of which consisted of a vast series of underground bunkers. Now, Fort Tilden never saw action, but it stayed in effect until 1974. Depending on the source that I was looking at, it either served as an Army Reserve post up until the 90s or was directly handed over to the National Park Service. Either way, photos dating back to 20 years ago show evidence of abandonment. Now it's a public park with hiking trails and like it's known for hawk watching. But just so you know, I didn't know any of this the first time I went there. My brain went big tunnel, big reverb, let's go. No need for research. Why would we do that?
The goal was to find a long concrete hallway, then place these two microphones by today's sponsor Lauten at the end of the hallway. These would operate as a stereo left and right. I initially planned to use the Sennheiser MK4 on the guitar and then the Lauten Clarion as the vocal sound. But later on, I would choose to mic the entire direct sound with the Lauten Clarion. That would put a larger emphasis on the stereo condensers that were down the hallway.
Now you guys know I love Lauten mics. The Lauten Clarion has been the lead vocal microphone on most of the projects on this channel. I use the LS208 all the time for voiceover. My entire first original song in years I recorded on one microphone, the Lauten LA220. I'll just keep it short and sweet. I adore these microphones. I adore the people that run the company, and I think they're probably the most underrated mic brand out there. With the plan set up, we were ready to roll.
The street light is just not working. Okay. Oh,
I got that on camera.
The first impression was this park is really weird. There are lots of old abandoned structures that lay completely empty, and the beach outstretched farther than you could see with hardly a soul at all. The batteries were locked, and I really don't know why I thought they wouldn't be. We cut through all the brush and went through each one of these entrances, this beautiful reverb just behind a few iron rods.
What'd you say?
It wasn't until later I learned that these have been locked since COVID. The images that I'd seen on Google were from before 2020. We eventually found an old army house north of the main structures, and out of desperation, I tried to convince myself and the rest of the crew that this space could be used.
Like, this is a super vibey place. There's like a skylight, and this is an interesting sounding room. It's just not this big, giant, grand sound. But it is still this kind of like empty, disparate. Is that word?
Oh, sorry. Completely fearful that I was going to leave this trip with absolutely nothing to show for it, we set up the audio rig and gave it a try.
If you have like an old audio interface that you don't use anymore, don't throw it away. Because what you can do is you can combine both the interfaces together, and when you do that, you can make 4 inputs total. You can go to audio MIDI setup, plus button, create an aggregate device. You can name it whatever you want. I'm gonna name it abandoned building, and then you just add the inputs that you want. You can see that you have an audio ID24 and a Connect 6. So I'm gonna add the ID24 and add the Connect 6, and that's it. Now whenever I go into Ableton, I can just select abandoned building as the input device, and suddenly you have a much bigger control panel. And that's how we're using these cheaper USB powered interfaces in order to do a bigger microphone setup.
Hell yeah.
Here is what we captured.
And the lines on my face getting deeper each day. Counting the hours till I lay in my grave. I've been chasing a dream, just a moth to the light. And the cemetery's full of people, sure they were right. Sure they were.
The reverb tails just weren't as dramatic as we wanted. The team was freezing cold and severely battered by the wind. It is an understatement to say that morale was low. And at this point, I had no choice but to pack it up and just leave.
But I had seen pictures of open gates on these batteries all over the internet. Why were they shut now? On Reddit is where I found that they were locked during COVID. But as Reddit typically does, it had a lot more than just the answer I was looking for. Now, when doing research on where people found these entrances, I did find some pretty unnerving videos. And I can't lie, like they freaked me out. Videos showing like shrines that people have made, like comments and posts about like rituals and all kinds of creepy stuff. And of course, you know, you could take this and run to the hills and shout ghosts all day long. From my side, that's just not really what I found interesting about this space. These exact same videos did actually help me find an entrance that was available on the public trails. The footage you're seeing now is me with an iPhone on a scouting mission to find that entrance. But whenever I actually got inside the bunker, I found that the allure of these spaces, the reason I wanted to record them at all, wasn't because they were creepy. These buildings are very much an artifact lost to time. These places could have been a space for people to take shelter for decades when they didn't have any other option. The beauty of these bunkers, to me, lies in how its role in our society has changed over time. And kind of with that, the beauty of watching it decay. Just marking these spaces as like scary or unsettling or creepy, to me, it kind of devalues the greater story that these halls hold. Regardless, this was finally a space that we could record in.
Where's the car go? No.
Hello.
This?
Yeah.
Pretty long tail. It's pretty cool.
Pretty right.
All right, so you're gonna set up a couple mics down here.
I got 50 feet. These chambers in here sound pretty sick. We had 50 feet of XLR cable to work with. Now we tested different rooms and different mic positions until eventually deciding to place the XLRs 50 feet out from the main tunnel and stationing Ethan right at the mouth of the bunker to backlight him for the shot. After setting up the microphones,
Lauten Audio, the best microphones in the business for when you're in an abandoned bunker in the outside of New York City.
and putting on wind protection, don't forget to do that, then using the exact same interface setup that I used earlier in the video, we were ready to roll. Now is probably a good time to say, maybe don't do this. Some of these places can be pretty dangerous, and if you are gonna do something like this, please be respectful of the space. By measuring some of the transients that we got before the performance, I was actually able to create an impulse response of the bunkers, which I can then transform into a reverb emulation. That reverb, we're gonna have on Patreon. Once you download that file, simply drag it into your DAW's convolution reverb. Then you can use the sound of these bunkers on your own recording. Sounds like this.
In the shadows he saw four eyes lit by fire. Fire. He'd never done that with a lover before. Meanwhile everyone else got lost in quiet by the river.
Now, in addition to that, you'll find an extra video where I break down all the mixing I did on this track. Patreon also has a mix breakdown for every project on the channel. That's all for $5 a month. And then I also made a version of this project with all stock plugins that you can download yourself if you want to see it in a little bit more of a tangible way. Now, this is going to get a touch sappy, and you know, I'm definitely personifying the space, but I swear this space felt like it wanted to be part of the recording. The very first take, the air was perfectly still, but as soon as Ethan stopped playing, we got this really beautiful wind. And actually, on the third take, the take that we ended up using, right as Ethan stopped playing, audio distortion consumed the signal. But not when Ethan was playing.
giggling about?
It started distorting right as you finished. And then it just went,
What is it distorting from?
who knows? But I don't think it got the recording.
Look, I'm not trying to imply anything spooky about this. All I'm saying is when the mission was to immortalize a space in the performance, it was cool to have the space interact with us. That in itself has enough beauty in it for me to have a little accompaniment from a space that time has forgotten. To have it kind of speak for just a moment. Emotionally, that feels really powerful to me.
Anyways, here is Gray Sheep by Ethan Toga, live from Fort Tilden.
Always loved watching people all out on the street. A thought from just out of reach. Maybe I could learn to be human too. Like the moon in the sun, just a pale-faced reflection. Though the mask don't slip askew like it used to. I've watched my values as they shift and change, and I felt that fortress as it crumbles away, and that wandering shepherd's flock has found its way. My coat of blackest night has turned to gray. It's hard to hold to my edges. Oh, when life wears them smooth, I thought that I'd stay immune to all the sounds that time can use to soothe the heart. Like the stone in the sea, a constant current has surrounded me and lifted marks that might have turned to steady scars. Watch my values as they shift and change, and I felt that fortress as it crumbles away, and that wandering shepherd's flock has found its way. My coat of blackest night has turned to gray. giggling about? I'm going to heaven. Follow me. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to heaven. Probably going to hell.
Oh, God.
Right?
Jesus.
Squint your eyes. Literally, like, facing your face.
Any other way. It really is like, you know what? Life's better than just graffiti and concrete.